Rory Bremner. Jan Ravens, welcome to Siren Sister.
Thank you.
Much.
Do you come to this area much?
Well, I'm kind of just down the road, near Swindon.
Oh, cool.
And which is lovely. It is. It's very nice. It's funny how many people say, "Oh, I live in Cirencester," and you go, "Oh, right. Which part of Swindon is that?" Then? but no. What I love about it was actually because I'm kind of I'm on your mailing list, and suddenly all these productions came in, like the Hound of the Baskervilles, and I just got the impression that it was lively, it was bright, and it's new, of course, and of course everything happening with House of Frasers pulling out, and you think, oh, Cirencester, really, you know. I think it's since Roman times. I think the sense of a civilization crumbling, and then a theatre arise. Yeah. And Jan loves this theatre, by the way.
Yeah, by the way.
Cool.
By the way,
whenever you say "by the way" now, it always sounds like Donald Trump's "by the way."
It's a great theatre.
But no, I've only ever been to Cirencester once, which was to go to Vanessa Arbuthnot.
Well, it's funny
because I love a spriggy fabric.
Yeah, absolutely.
So yes, I came along to the showroom with a friend of mine who actually lives near here. So that was very exciting. But I'm staying in a hotel which is in the DHL car park, which is not quite as lovely as Vanessa Arbuthnot. But no, it is an amazing theatre.
Just like Vanessa Arbuthnot fabrics, we have great acoustics.
You do?
Oh yes, obviously yes, the same thing. No, Vanessa has nothing on your acoustics, let me tell you. I mean, the sound system here and the lighting, it's just great. I mean, what's the capacity of the theatre?
200.
200,
Yeah.
I think 20,000. I believe.
20,000.
I believe we had. Although I believe we had 78,000 in tonight.
Yeah.
But what I like, it's a lively.
The official numbers, obviously.
The official numbers. Yeah, but it's a lively kind of new theatre, and to be honest, you don't get many of those. So
and it's a producing house. A lot of these productions are sort of like actor musicians, which I love. Yeah. You know, in the spirit of like Knee-High or somebody like that, where it's so impressive when actors, suddenly pick up a violin or a flute or something, and and another one picks up a guitar, and it's so magical when there's that sort of virtuosity. It's just brilliant, and I love the idea of those productions.
Yeah, well, I mean, you've both been on the stage in theatre and things like that, right? Rory, you've translated operas and plays and all sorts of things, and how involved are you with theatre these days? And you're obviously very passionate about it.
Well, do you know, the strange thing is, it was because of this kind of energy that comes through the website and starting up. Actually, I thought, oh, this is the place I'd like to do a show. So who knows? I mean, maybe I've got an opera sitting there which I translated for a festival. Seven Deadly Sins, Kurt Weill. It's funny when you're doing a translation, you think, I wonder who translated this before, and I thought, W.H. Auden.
No pressure.
I was thinking, well, I think I can do better. I think I can do a little bit better than that. But anyway, and then the festival was cancelled, so it's sitting there. But it's exactly the kind of place where you think, oh, do you know what? It'd be quite. You could just get involved.
That's what we want to do. Really, is if you want to workshop something, if you want to obviously start your tour and try it out. Obviously, Cirencester, that's a typical stop off points for the big tours and things and the warm ups.
We have to we have to acknowledge now that when I do this line in my show where I sort of say, any Radio 4 listeners in, and the whole audience as one goes, yay! Or it's when you kind of see your audience think, gosh, it's full of very old people. You think, no, they're actually the same age as you, Jan.
Well, you look great, Jan.
It is true. It's just like, yes, they are now in their 50s.
Yeah, that's us, old Radio 4 people. But yes, I mean, I think Cirencester is probably pretty much our demographic, isn't it?
Yes, and Theresa May, she could open it, couldn't she? She could cut a ribbon.
She could cut a ribbon, yes, but she might.
I thought she could open for you.
Yeah. She could be our support act. I think Theresa warming anything is a contradiction in terms, really. Yeah.
Yes, she could be the cool down act.
Yeah.
The cool set. The best thing about touring is just discovering different places. I mean, like Jan and I found ourselves in the summer in the middle of May or something, and we're going from one theatre sort of near Halifax to another theatre, I don't know, sort of near Oldham or something, and you find yourself, in the Dales or the Moors or somewhere in this sort of little town square, and you see parts of the country, and actually working in places like Leeds or Newcastle or Manchester or Liverpool or Birmingham, and you think normally other people, you'd have to have a holiday, you'd have to go on holiday to visit parts of Britain, so you see the rest of the country, and that's great on on every level, not just, you know, seeing where you live and seeing what, but also just seeing what life is like outside the bubble.
Well, I mean, it's funny seeing so many performers and writers and things come up from London, because they'll, you know, it's because I think it's good for everyone to, you know, I'm going to London tomorrow. It's good for the London public to,
but you get a really good sense of how hard austerity is in Cirencester.
We're seeing massive changes. You know, often it's hard to keep up. And, you know, I heard you guys talking earlier, you know, did you see the news this morning? I'm like, they watch the news in the morning? Oh my God.
Yeah.
But, you know, you keep up to date with things, you know the facts, and you are constantly trying to digest all of this stuff and figure it all out, I suppose, before you even start to write. But
obviously, you've got to make sense of it and then make nonsense of it.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes you have to, like you say, sometimes you have to kind of let it lie for a while, because, you know, it's very easy to kind of to have that sort of instant reaction, and then, you know, it's a bit crass.
What's going on with Trump? He's bad, I guess.
And also coming out with stuff which actually tops what he's already doing. You know, and you sort of, like when he tells the Spanish ministers that you should build a wall across the Sahara Desert. You go, that's a line straight out of a comedy thing, and you can't. And he's done it.
You can't make it.
So this is the world. It is a very strange world. I mean, I don't think, you know, because Jan and I go back a long, long way, and Jan directed. She directed the Footlights. Who was it? People you've never heard of now.
Shut up.
Yes. People like Stephen Fry and Emma Thompson and they've just disappeared now. Yeah. But going back, but I can't remember a time. And John Cleese, that's another story. But I can't remember a time when it was like now. So it's an exciting time to be out and doing shows. And as the tour goes on, it's only a short tour, but as it goes on, hopefully, you know, some of the new material will start to come through, and some of the old stuff and it will develop in that way, because simply stories will push themselves into, and that's the best way. It's a quite good thing to be writing on the road, in a sense.
And also it's good to it's just so good to keep doing live performing, because you know, the worst thing is when you don't do a show for, you know, a couple of months, and then you do one again, you're like, I can't, you know, and you can't remember it, and then of course you look at it again, and it's, you know, you can't. Well, I can't do that joke because, you know, she's gone. It is actually, you know, although it's, you know, you sort of want to have time off touring sometimes. Actually, it's better to keep a few dates in the diary, and actually, I agree with Rory so much. It's so good to just keep playing different parts of the country, and, you know, sometimes you can go to a place where, you know, maybe it doesn't go as well as it's gone in other places, or, you know, they're not quite so much on your side, but that's good for you too.
Well, it is really, and really, you know, it's the truth should shine through really in what you're doing.
Well, yeah.
We had Anna Soubry with us in Chesterfield, and people say, that's really biased. I thought, it's a weird thing, people talk about bias if they disagree with you. It's rather like, you know, on the news now, if they had the round the world yachtswoman, they'd have to have somebody on from the Flat Earth Society to balance it out. And I think you don't necessarily come to a comedy show to sort of say, right, no, I think it's very important, this balance.
Just give me the facts, and then I'll go home, you know.
Yeah.
Because what I've always said with this show, I hope, and with Jan, you know, it's got those elements that, you know, with the voices, because that's obviously what we do and what we enjoy. And Jan is absolutely at the top of her game with that, with the Theresas and the Diane Abbotts and all of these voices.
I've got a few more characters to go on these days.
It's her time. But so the voices and the jokes and a playfulness, but also importantly, I think, to have something to say. And I think probably people might not agree, and maybe it is.
And that's fine. You know, you don't have to. I mean, my son Alfie's also a comedian, and he posted a thing on Instagram yesterday. And it's a picture of him, and he's sort of going down at the audience, kind of like this, and the audience are down here, and the picture's he's captioned it hostility, and then somebody said, oh my God, you know, what went on? And he said, oh well, actually it was a really fun gig in Liverpool, but there were lots of stag do's in, you know, and Alfie's material is quite edgy, and you know, and you know, you could just sort of see that, you know, a bunch of guys out for a night and, you know, very, very drunk would not kind of, you know, get the subtleties of it, maybe.
Sometimes they're looking for it.
Oh, yeah, they want to fight. I mean, a verbal fight.
Well,
yeah.
Like,
No, they do.
I remember, I don't know if you've seen this, but I remember watching a clip of Bill Burr in Boston, right?
Oh, right.
And they were all absolutely, you know, steaming.
Yeah.
And and they were just heckling, and then he just rants and insults the crowd for about 15 minutes, and he ends with a standing ovation.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? As in, it's sometimes we just want a bit of a confrontation, and that's a good thing.
See, I mean, I so admire Bill Burr and, you know, Alfie and anybody that can kind of take that on, because I basically sort of think, look, I've rehearsed my act, you know, I've honed it to the best of my ability. Would you just please listen? You know, I mean, because I guess it's because I don't come from a sort of stand-up tradition. I sort of come from an acting tradition, and so I like as Rory says, I like to have a point behind it. I like to be saying something, but I also like to kind of hone the characters. And if you're just trying to shout at people, you can't sort of, you know, plug into, because it's not just the voices, it's the characters, you know. It's like, you know, like Theresa May is just a bundle of nerves, just like, so, you know, everything is just tense. Or, you know, Diane Abbott is just, you know, like she's just about to have a nice nap, or just been woken up, you know. It's just like all those sort of characteristics, and you're kind of, you know, there's several circuits all going at the same time in your computer, and to actually then have to take somebody on and think of something, you know, that's going to top what the hecklers said.
It is, yeah. But also, in a sense, if they just left and thinking, oh, isn't Trump funny? Isn't Boris funny? Isn't so-and-so funny? I think that would be a shame. You want them to go away thinking, I had no idea that had happened, or I had no idea that he'd said, or no idea that was behind it. So there's always that element. But it is interesting in a way because at the end of the day as well, your job is to entertain an audience. Yeah. But if you take, and that's, you know, that's the old, the typical, and the you know, that's the comedy thing. But of course, since alternative comedy, and perhaps Edinburgh as well, there is that sense that comedians control a room, and they say, no, you're coming to listen to our worldview for an hour or whatever. Yeah. But I would say Jan and I are more in the traditional thing, as saying that, you know, you're there to entertain that audience, and you haven't really got the right to just completely preach at them for an hour.
You know, Victoria Wood, not an offensive bone in her body, but everyone leaves that room feeling better.
Yeah,
right? And that's and then of course you've got the Trevor Noahs and the Jon Stewarts and all of that kind of thing, who are specifically political. Hello, we're going to wrap it up. So
I think everyone should leave this theatre feeling better. Anyway, so come to the barn.
Fabulous theatre, come to the
and watch
barn.
How the Baskervilles.
Come to the barn
come and
now.
Watch Just So.
Come to the barn, bake a pie. Who's going to buy Miss Laurie's pie? Well, I'm going to buy Miss Laurie's pie. What do you bake, Miss Laurie? Well, I baked a hominy grit pie. No,
you know, she's a Republican, you can tell. It's all pies. It's all pies.
Let's raise a barn.
Good people. Right.
Let's raise a barn.
Let's have a knee high in the barn.
Yeah.
Cool. Thank you.
Pleasure.